Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm super thrilled. We are covering Deathbound. It's an upcoming action RPG developed by Trialforge Studio, offering a dark fantasy world filled with brutal combat and strategic gameplay. Drawing inspiration from the Soulslike genre, it immerses the player in a grim, challenging environment where precise timing, resource management, and adaptability are key to survival. Here's a breakdown of its core elements. So let's talk about the story and the setting. Deathbound takes place in a desolate, war-torn fantasy realm where players navigate through ancient ruins, battle grotesque creatures, and uncover lore that hints at a rich, if foreboding, world history. The game's narrative is deliberately cryptic, encouraging players to piece together the story through exploration and interaction with non-playable characters. While not much is currently known about the specifics of the plot, it seems to be heavily influenced by the themes of decay, lost civilizations, and even existential threats. Now, what about the gameplay mechanics? So, as we know, Deathbound is a Souls-like, pretty much. First, the combat system. The combat is heavily inspired by games like Dark Souls with its punishing difficulty, emphasis on stamina management and precise timing. Players must be methodical, learning enemy patterns and adapting their strategies accordingly. Now, the combat is actually very interesting because you are playing 3-4 different people all at the same time and you're constantly changing in between them. Now, with these people, on the left hand side on the bottom you can see kind of their icons, and usually they're green. When you get hit, it goes a little bit red. When you dodge, it also goes a little bit red. So what exactly is happening there? Well, the stamina meter and the health bar, they are superimposed on each other. So when you dodge, you use some of that meter. Now, when you get hit, you also use some of that meter. But what it does is once you get hit and your health is lowered, your max stamina is also lowered. So now you're kind of dealing with two different things here. It's a little bit punishing because if you're down to your last 10% of health, right, you're gonna get one attack in and be gassed, and you're gonna have to wait, and then you're gonna have to, recharge a little bit of stamina, do a dodge, and it becomes very difficult at times managing that. One other thing that we should mention about the combat is the morphing ability. When you are changing from warrior to warrior, you can do a morph attack or a morph dodge, basically, and each of the characters have their own morph ability. And now, if you have the morph meter built up fully, you can do kind of like a mega ultra morph, which makes it even more destructive on the enemy. Now, one of the unique elements of the game is the Deathbound system. That's why it's called that, where players can fuse with fallen warriors. So as the game goes on, you'll find these fallen warriors and you'll be able to slot them in one another, next to each other, across from each other, whatever, and you'll be able to use any combination of 4 fallen warriors at the same time. This allows them to alter their abilities and fighting styles on the fly. So you can, morph from the rogue to the paladin to the spellcaster kind of thing. They all have their niches, they have names in the game, but they all kind of follow a very common archetype. So this Deathbound mechanic, it adds a layer of strategy, as fusing with different warriors grants unique advantages or disadvantages, because sometimes the two different warriors that you fused with, if they're next to each other in the positioning system, maybe they hate each other, maybe they get along. So there are positive interactions between the warriors and negative interactions, and those negative interactions, while they do produce a negative effect, they also produce a really positive effect. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where when you have a negative relationship between two different warriors, you might get something that hinders you, but at the same time, you might get something amazing from that relationship. And it's up to you to decide, is it worth putting those two characters together and getting that relationship happening? Now, Deathbound also has RPG elements, right? Players can level up, upgrade their gear, choose from various skills to improve their chances of survival. There is a skill tree that basically covers all of the different warriors and some general skills, and you can kind of piece your way to whatever hero/warrior you want to upgrade, and upgrade the skills on that particular character. So those are, I guess, skill points in a sense. Since we don't have strength, agility, stamina like you do in Souls games, this is kind of what we're using in Deathbound to kind of make up for that. Now, on the flip side, there are also unique skills and abilities that are unlocked for each specific warrior. And the way you unlock those is you get skill points by picking up those warriors' memories. You have to be playing that warrior and you have to find their memory in whatever level you're in. And once you've found it, you've listened to it, and you've gotten it, you get an extra skill point, which then you can use and select some ability from that specific warrior's skill tree. So that adds a further level of complexity for the game. Now let's talk about the art and the atmosphere. Visually, Deathbound adopts a grim and foreboding aesthetic. Its world is marked by a dark color palette, decaying architecture, and atmospheric lighting, contributing to a sense of dread. The character and creature designs are grotesque, haunting, heightening the tension of each encounter. The environments feel hostile, yet they are filled with a melancholic beauty that draws players to explore further. The tone is very reminiscent of Bloodborne or Elden Ring. Now we've kind of described the game. You've seen some footage of fighting, you've seen footage of the skills and the overall systems of the game. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Well, let's start off with the strengths. We've got innovative mechanics. As we've talked about before, you're playing 4 different characters all at the same time. You're switching from one to another to another. You also have the stamina meter mixed with the health meter. It's very cool. It's very different, and I applaud the developers for trying something so innovative. The atmosphere. The atmosphere is fantastic. This is what you want. It's desolate, it's dark, it's eerie, and it's paired with a cryptic story that encompasses many different little storylines, right? Each of the warriors that you kind of recruit, all of them have their own little backstories and storylines. It's nice to hear about those. And obviously the challenge is fantastic. I think it's a pretty well balanced game. Sometimes you get these Souls-like that are quote unquote unfair, or sometimes they're just pushovers and too easy. I think this is right in the middle. Now, what about the weaknesses? I think this is a very niche game. If you like Souls-like games, I think you're gonna be all over this. You're gonna definitely be playing this, and it's, you know, already part of your library. But if you don't like Souls-like games, I don't know that this is appealing to the masses. It's maybe a little bit too dark, it's maybe a little bit too difficult, and it's not a beginner-friendly entry-level Souls-like, which I don't know if that's a weakness or not, but I'm just saying, you know, it is a niche appeal. Another thing, the narrative depth. While the narratives can be pretty engaging, and I do like the fact that there are, you know, many different narratives for each of the warriors, some players may find the story too obscure or difficult to follow without a clear plot or more tangible lore. So, overall, Deathbound presents a promising addition to the action RPG genre, especially for fans of dark fantasy and challenging combat. Its innovative Deathbound mechanic adds a layer of strategy that sets it apart from other Souls-like games in the Souls-like genre. The dark, atmospheric world and punishing gameplay ensure that it will appeal to hardcore players looking for an immersive, demanding experience. However, its difficulty may limit its appeal to a broader audience, which is often the case with games in this genre. For me, Deathbound is absolutely a thumbs up for anybody who plays Souls-like games. This is a game that I'm very happy to be playing and adding to my collection of Souls-like experiences. So I do hope that this game did well enough for the developers that they tackle on a Deathbound 2 or another Souls-like game in the future. So for now, I'm gonna say, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. The support really is appreciated, and I will catch you next time. See ya.